So I will acknowledge, even though I've been in the white collar crime game for about 13 years now, I was not that familiar with cyber stalking and where the government draws the line with cyber stalking. Generally, if you're not thrilled with what somebody does, you can respond to it. You can respond to it via email. You can address it face to face. You can sue them if they're defaming you. These executives at eBay, however, they decided to go down a totally different path. For that reason, we're going to cover the eBay cyber stalking scandal today. And I'm going to refer back to my very trusted screen share. Thank you again for joining us at Prison Professors and on our podcast. If you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe. We know you're busy, so I don't want to waste your time. I want to jump in, talk about how good people, you would presume good, honest, hardworking people who never imagined they would become immersed in the criminal justice system, wake up and then they're suddenly immersed in the criminal justice system. And that's exactly what happened in this eBay case. Sentencing is now underway in Boston. One defendant already got 18 months by District Judge Allison Burroughs. We've had a number of clients go in front of Allison Judge Burroughs, including clients in the Insys pharmaceutical case a few years back. But let me give you a little intro into this eBay cyber stalking scandal. As I mentioned, sentencing are underway in this federal case. Someone just got sentenced to 18 months by Allison Burroughs, in which eBay employees harassed a husband and wife publishing team with threats, a funeral wreath, live cockroaches, and a bloody-faced pig mask. I believe the judge said just nuts. Let's break that down for a moment. You don't like what someone says about you, and I've endured that previously. There's a way to respond to it. There's a way to handle it. Generally, giving people live cockroaches and a bloody-faced pig mask may not be the best approach. And I can assure you, when these executives in a room decided they were going to do this, let me tell you what they were not thinking about: getting indicted. And in retrospect, they'd have probably given more thought to it. I have no doubt in this environment of groupthink and everyone, oh, it's your idea, it wasn't mine, it sounds good, okay, I'll just go along with it, I don't want to disappoint. That groupthink mentality in corporate boardrooms can lead a lot of people to trouble. And in this case, lead a lot of people to federal prison. Discussion on cyber stalking, which is something I didn't know a whole lot about until our colleague wrote this very excellent blog. Cyber stalking, even hard to say, is the use of the internet or other electronic means to stalk or harass a person, group, or organization. It can involve false accusations, defamation, slander, libel, also including monitoring, identity theft, threats, vandalism, solicitation for sex, doxing, or blackmail. Generally bad things. Cyber stalking sometimes goes hand in hand with offline or physical stalking, though not always. Cyber stalking, of course, is a criminal offense because we have millions of laws in this country, but this is an important one because it really created pain and heartache for this husband and wife team. And you empathize with people who are hurt and devastated, and it's why these people are going to prison. Cyber stalking is a criminal offense under various state anti-stalking, slander, harassment laws. A state law conviction can result in restraining orders, probation, penalties, including time in prison. In California, stalking is a criminal offense, whether virtual or online. It is, of course, a federal offense as well because Judge Burroughs is a federal judge in Boston. Cyber stalking is a criminal offense at the federal level under several anti-stalking, slander, and harassment laws. Specifically, the Violence Against Women Act passed in 2000 made cyber stalking a part of the federal interstate stacking statute. So it's been around for a very long time, though admittedly our team at Prison Professors, while we've come across a number of cases and crimes, haven't had a whole lot of these, which is partly why I'm fascinated to cover it. In the federal system, sentences can range from 18 months in prison, a fine, to 10 years in prison, and a $150,000 fine for a second-degree charge. Now let's get into this cyber stalking case with eBay and why it made such headlines. The recent eBay case made headlines about the perils of cyber stalking and has people wondering where the federal government draws the line regarding aggressive behavior. Could probably argue live cockroaches and heads of pigs are potentially crossing the line. Much different than sending a rebuttal or arguing over an email or calling to yell at them about something that was said. These prosecutors have discretion about what they deem criminal. At what point did not having bad intent, cross the line and really jeopardize and put people at risk? I mean, people who endure this suffer years of anguish and suffer drama as a result of this conduct. So U.S. attorneys have discretion. They have a lot of cases in front of them. They have to pick and choose what makes the most sense. And you could argue the U.S. attorney, besides the conduct, which was awful, like the idea of taking down companies of $1 billion tech company, something we talk about in our work is understanding the stakeholders. Prosecutor probably like taking down executives, from eBay and hold them accountable and setting an example of what will happen to others, who engage in this conduct. Prosecutors charged eBay's director of safety and security. That's the irony, right? He was director of safety and security, yet he put the safety and security of people he heard at risk. A lot of irony in this work. Director of safety and security, James Bow, with conspiracy to commit cyberstalking and conspiracy to tamper with witnesses. They also charged David Harville, the eBay's director of global resiliency, on the same charges to commit cyberstalking and witness tampering. The witness tampering is important because it kind of speaks to post-offense conduct. So you have the initial charge, and then sometimes they say the cover-up is worse than the crime. It's why Martha Stewart went to prison for obstruction, not the actual conduct or whatever insider trading she didn't go to prison for that. It was the cover-up. So the post-offense conduct is very important. The witness tampering speaks to continued bad conduct, to just draws out a pattern that this is kind of like a bad dude who's looking to continue to do bad things. 4 other people in this case face criminal conspiracy charges. In my experience, conspiracy is really widely used. It's the easiest way to indict someone, by tying them into a conspiracy because they knew or should have known, and the overt act and all these things. A lot of people get swept into conspiracies, even though they didn't, really have bad intentions, as most people do not, as I frequently say. It's what happened. According to the documents, the cyberstalking campaign targeted a couple who edited and published an online newsletter covering e-commerce companies such as eBay. Certain members of the executive team at eBay disliked the newsletter. I hate to laugh, but it's like the response to what they did is just it's crazy. As the judge said, it's just nuts. I don't always agree with federal judges, but I agree with this judge. Certain members of the leadership team disliked the post, often taking issue with its content and the anonymous contents underneath the editor's stories. I mean, this is the internet, right? People can say things that are true and not true, do it, cowardly, anonymously. It's the world that we live in. Apparently, they didn't like it, however, and they went about it this way. In 2019, after the newsletter published an article about litigation involving eBay, 2 eBay executive leadership team members sent or forwarded text messages suggesting that it was time to take the newsletter's editors down. Immediately, members of the alleged conspiracy began a 3-part harassment campaign against the couple. So much for free speech. The eBay case involves bizarre harassment activities, both on and offline. The harassment offline included delivering a preserved fetal pig, a bloody pig Halloween mask, a funeral wreath, and pornography to the victims' homes. You gotta wonder what they were thinking in this boardroom at eBay. There could have been some drugs or alcohol and late nights. I'd also like to talk to the person who decided to pull the trigger on the bloody pig Halloween mask, because there's some issues here he wants to contend with and deal with, in my opinion. That's awful. There should be consequences, and I hope that everyone in this case accepts responsibility and works to become better. They all work to show that they're sorry, that they're measurable, that it's specific. They'll never do it again. They identify with the people in this case they hurt. That's what it takes to really overcome a felony conviction for a white-collar crime. Not saying I'm sorry, just saying I'm sorry, followed up with actions. Create a plan to demonstrate why you'll be better and never return to a courtroom. Everyone's possible of becoming better. We all deserve second chances if earned, including all of the people in this case, any defendant who made bad decisions. But it's going to do more than saying I'm sorry to a judge. They hurt people. The cyberstalking charges stem from a series of private Twitter messages and public tweets criticizing the newsletter's content and threatening to visit the victims in person. I mean, this is, we're talking we're talking red collar crime here. When white collar crime gets violent, the government alleges that those involved planned a series of messages culminating with doxing the victims, publishing their home address. In a bizarre attempt to turn the newsletter's editors into eBay fans, the conspiracy planned the following: a former Santa Clara police captain would approach the victims with an offer to help stop the harassment and the conspirators were secretly causing, which was supposed to generate goodwill towards eBay and favorable coverage in the newsletter. The conspiracy also conducted physical surveillance of the victims at home, planning aggressive steps like breaking into the garage, putting a GPS tracking device on the car, and lying about the victims if questioned by police. When the victims noticed the surveillance, they involved police, and an investigation naturally began, a government investigation. As the police and eBay's lawyers investigated, the co-conspirators deleted evidence, witness tampering, the cover-up, all that good stuff, obstructing what by then became a federal investigation. Conspiracy to commit cyberstalking and conspiracy to tamper with witnesses each carries a sentence of up to 5 years, 3 years of supervised release, probation, and a fine of up to $250,000. 18 months in prison. So we're beginning to get some actual sentences here for people who decided to deliver live cockroaches and pig heads to people's homes. Former eBay security manager Philip Cook was the first of seven former eBay employees to face sentencing. Government asked for 2.5 years, and he got 18 months. So it did better than the government requested. Judge Burroughs, I think, is a fair judge and probably goes a little bit lower most of the time. For example, a client of ours in the Insys Pharmaceutical case, the government asked for 16 months. Our client got 18 months. Judge Burroughs sentenced Cook to 18 months in prison for his role in this bizarre and intense campaign. Cook pleaded guilty 9 months earlier to conspiracy to commit. He may have also cooperated against the others. That could lead to a shorter sentence. Cook, a former police officer, admitted to attending meetings where eBay employees plotted the harassment campaign. He was involved in discussions about mailing threatening items and surveilling the couple's home. He also helped sabotage a police investigation. That's the cover-up, worse than the crime. In addition to the sentence, he got 3 years of supervised release and a $15,000 fine, which shows he had a little bit of money in his probation report, which of course breaks down all of the financials. In his defense, Cook claimed that he advised against the campaign and that the orchestrators never carried out most or many of the activities. Cook also focused on the work culture. He blamed his rogue behavior on drinking, which was made worse. I mentioned this earlier, which was made worse by eBay's drinking culture. He claimed that drinking was part of the culture with alcohol present throughout the office space. That's important because that can be a mitigating factor backed up by evidence, and judges can certainly take that into consideration. It is hard to determine precisely how these arguments influence the sentencing. Still, we note that he received 18 months, which is less than the government requested. So you begin to get a baseline of someone getting sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. Let me get off the screen share for a second. You begin to get a baseline when someone get 18 months, I presume. The orchestrator of this fraud, the orchestrator of the cyberstalking will get a longer prison term. It really matters how quickly they accepted responsibility, how thorough their mitigation is. At Prison Professors, we encourage all defendants to understand all of the stakeholders, to understand what mitigation means beyond just hiring a criminal defense attorney, to really demonstrate in an authentic manner 4 key points: what they've learned, why they did it, why they'll never break the law again, and that they identify with victims. Too many defendants in our experience tend to focus on how their own life is imploding, and there's no doubt it's hard. But you can't focus on how your own life is imploding and the pain and the fallout. The government's going to focus on the victims, and so should all defendants. We empathize with defendants going through this. We know all people can become better than bad decisions because everyone on our team has made bad decisions. But to overcome it requires a plan, not happy talk. It requires action, not excuses and blaming others. And I suspect every defendant in this case has a plan to do better. They're capable of doing better. And I know it will be hard on their family when they're in prison, but if they want it bad enough and they're willing to invest the time, I count on them to emerge successfully. And that really begins with identifying with the people they hurt. Thank you so much for learning more about this really weird, odd cyber stalking eBay case. Again, thank you for listening to our podcast. And if you're here on YouTube, Prison Professors, please like and subscribe to this video. I look forward to returning soon. I am your speaker, your host, your talker, Justin Viperni with Prison Professors. Goodbye.